Hello, I'm Hazy Crumlord, and this is Hazy Reviews. I thought I'd do something a little different this video and review the books I read in the month of October. I might do this just once a month, just recap the things I read and go over them and give you my thoughts on what I read. And then we'll get back to some movies. So without further ado, I read some books. Let's talk about them. All right, starting off, the first book I finished in the month of October was End of Watch by Stephen King. It is the third book in the Bill Hodges, Holly Gibney, and Mercedes Killer trilogy. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I really like the characters of Bill Hodges and Holly Gibney. I had enough of the Mercedes Killer of Brady Hartsfield. He was fine in the first book. I liked the first book. I think it would have served the story better to have different villains for the second and the third book, but that's just my personal opinion. I thought he was fine in the first book. I was done with him in the first book. That being said, I was glad when I finished the book. I'm glad the series is over. Although I am a little sad saying goodbye to Bill and Holly. Now, I will be reading Holly. I know there's another book with just her. But it is the end of the road for Bill and Holly working together, and that was a little sad. But all in all, I mean, it's a good trilogy. If you're into crime thriller like Who Done It, they're not horror. So if you come to Stephen King looking for horror, these aren't it. But that being said, I mean, they're good reads. They're well written. I just would have liked something a little different for the villains for the second and third books, but that's personal preference. Moving along. The second book I read in the month of October was 20th Century Ghosts by Joe Hill. This is a compilation of 15 of his short stories, including the short story The Black Phone, which is what the movie was based off of. I was a little surprised by The Black Phone in short story format. I know they're short stories, but even still, like compared to the movie, I was surprised just how short it was. They took a lot of liberties filling that story out for the movie. I think for the better. That being said, the short story is great. Not all of them were hits for me. There were one or two that I actually didn't like that much, but even still, I love Joe Hill's writing style. Maybe even better than Stephen King's writing style. I find them very intuitive and conversational and just very easy to get lost in his writing, and I just adore that. My favorite story out of here is 20th Century Ghost. If you're a fan of Joe Hill and you haven't read this, I think it's worth picking up just for that story alone. It was fantastic. Highly recommend 20th Century Ghost. If you haven't read it, check it out. With that, I also did pick up my signed first copy edition of his new book, King Sorrow. That is on my docket to read for November. It is 900 pages-ish. Hopefully I can get through it in November with everything else I'm trying to get done. But I am very much looking forward to this. So I will keep you posted on that. The third book I finished for the month of October was The Deep by Nick Cutter. I loved this book. This is the second book I've read by Nick Cutter. The first one was The Troop, which was fine. I didn't love it. More so just the subject matter. It was a bunch of kids on an island, which there's nothing wrong with that per se. I'm just a little saturated, I feel like, with kids in horror right now, and it was just sort of not what I was in the mood for. Maybe if I read it, maybe I'll read it again in a little while. Maybe I'll enjoy it more. But The Deep, I absolutely loved this book. This is about a small team of scientists that are sent to a science lab on the bottom of the ocean to research a substance that they believe might be able to cure a new disease that has been plaguing humanity. One of the scientists sends up a request to find his brother and have him sent down, his semi-estranged brother. They do, and that's where the story really takes off. This story it's a pretty quick read. It's short chapters, and each chapter is like a cliffhanger into the next chapter, and I love that style of writing. It is a dark a dark book, very dark story. It's claustrophobic. There is some very graphic, very visceral imagery in here, which I love. I love when I'm reading a horror book and it sort of makes me squirm while I'm reading it. This definitely did that. Um, there is a scene close to the end of this book that for the entire day after I finished it, the entire next day, I was thinking about that scene. It really was very impactful for me. But if you are claustrophobic, if you are afraid of water, or if you are adverse to hearing stories about animal cruelty, there might be some things in here you won't love. But for this book, think like Sphere meets The Abyss. If anyone knows the movie The Abyss, I think is a pretty good synopsis of what you can expect out of The Deep. I loved it. Highly recommend The Deep by Nick Cutter. Coming up, I did see the newest Hell House movie finally. I have always been a big fan of the Hell House trilogy, so I want to do a video on those. I also saw The Substance, which I knew nothing about going in. I went in blind and I absolutely loved it. I want to get a video out on that. And I want to get a video out on Weapons. I saw that too. They are available on HBO to stream for free. Check them out. Substance and Weapons are on HBO. The latest Hell House I saw on Shudder. So if you have Shudder, check that out. And I will get videos up on them hopefully in the not too distant future. So what do you think, guys? Did you read any of these stories? What did you think? What's your favorite short story out of here? And what do you think of the Bill Hodges trilogy? Let me know in the comments. Like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will catch you next time.